Everyone believes that England are actually going to get the victory, the largest margin, according to Craig and Stevie. Craig going for a 3-1 victory, Stevie going for 2-0. Jurgen, before we focus on this game and the tactics in particular, what's it? You've been there, national team manager. You get all this criticism, all this noise. How do you deal with that?
Oh, you just take it as it is. I mean, this is part of your job, and you face it every single day. And I think it was brilliant what Gareth said. He is focused on the next opponent. He's focused on the next challenge. You know, all that matters is getting the result to get through the group stage. And then comes knockout phase, and from there you play one final after another, basically until the very end. And he's done tremendously well over the last 3 tournaments. I see there a progression from England. Obviously, they were close in Russia, then losing in the semifinals to Croatia. I was at that game myself. They had it actually there to win it, and then they lost the Euros against Italy. In penalty shootouts, they were leading 1-0, and they had it right there as well. And then they played a very positive and good World Cup in Qatar. And I think he learned so much over those last 3 tournaments, Gareth, that he knows, you know, whatever the people now say, you know, it's just 1-0 and it was not a brilliant performance. Doesn't really matter. Doesn't really matter anymore, because what matters is tomorrow's game against Denmark, get this win and move into round of 16. That's all that matters. And then find your own kind of way to handle your environment in a very positive way, which he does, and go from game to game. And as we said in the beginning, it's 7 games, 7 games to be in the final of this tournament and to win this tournament possibly. So he has the right attitude.
If regular viewers will hear Don banging on about his tactical change that he would do ahead of this game to what we saw against Serbia. Don, what would your starting 11 be?
It would be Phil Foden playing as a 10, Anthony Gordon on the left-hand side and Bellingham a little bit deeper. I think when you look at that on paper, I think the back 5 sort of picks itself. I think Bellingham and Rice can both play as number 8s. People might argue you take a little bit away from Bellingham because he tries to get in the box. You can still do that from a number 8 position. And Saka, Gordon on the left, who will sort of penetrate wide. Kane's obviously going to start, but put Phil Foden in his best position where he can get on the ball as much as possible. That's the key. You get your best players on the ball as much as possible. You've got a chance of winning games, and that, for me, is a better 11 than they started with in the first game.
I don't think the criticism was around the result, because it was 3 points against Serbia. I think it was the way that after 15, 20 minutes that they seceded territory and possession, and that put themselves in danger of losing a goal. And that lack of control of the game.
Does Don starting 11 change that control?
Well, we talked about this after the England game the other night, that we're getting Gordon in, and whether it was Rice and Bellingham and Foden just in front, or Bellingham, I think that's a better balance. And the big question will come, because England will qualify out of this group. I'm absolutely certain of it. The big question will come if they come up against one of those other, you know, these sides that have been starting well, Portugal, France, Germany, Spain. What's he going to do with the middle of the park?
Right.
Because that's where the semi-final that Jurgen's talking about against Croatia, the game he was at, that's where they lost the game.
Yes.
Croatia, as that game went on, dominated the middle of the park. They had 3 in there. I can't remember who they were. I mean, I know Modric was one of them. Rakitic, I think, was one.
Brozovic.
And it might have been Brozovic. But they don't, and Gareth never dealt with that, Southgate. He never dealt with it. And they got overrun as the game went on. And that's going to be the burning question for England as this tournament progresses. I know they've got some issues at the back with centre-half, but ultimately the middle of the park is where you're going to control the game or not. And that, you know, all this talk about Mino and Adam Wharton and all these terrifically talented young players, that's a cesspit to throw them into.
Right.
I mean, it's all right giving them a game in the group stage if England have qualified and it's the 3rd game. It's another thing to get to the knockout and throw one of these youngsters in who have either got no caps or 2 caps. So that's a big burning question for Southgate.
That middle of the park makes complete sense. You know, one of the criticisms of England and Southgate is that when they go 1-up, they start the game well, they get themselves 1-up, and then all of a sudden it's almost like they put the foot on the brake. Well, if you've got Rice sitting, you've got Bellingham who will do both jobs.
Yeah.
because he will get in the opposition penalty box, but he'll also get himself back in. And then you've got Foden in his best place. So when you do go one up, you're still going to be solid with Rice and Bellingham, but you've still got Foden to get you the second goal or to create the second goal. That's why it makes complete sense.
And you've got a wide player in Gordon who will track back.
And can take you up the pitch.
Who can give you something going forward and will track back and help Trippier. That was something we noticed from the Serbia game, that Foden wants to wander because that's what he does, and he's a fantastic footballer, but it was leaving a gap down that side. And plus, you're picking a form player. Anthony Gordon has been a form player. He's been outstanding for Newcastle this season. And to me, he's a player that he's not frightened of the occasion. He'll get the ball, he's something different, and he'll run at defenders, he'll stretch teams. And it's going to be interesting to see if Southgate, whether he thinks about doing something like that.
How would you deal, Jurgen, with this Foden conundrum?
Well, it's a tricky one. Obviously, as I said before, you try to find the right balance in midfield, and over years, we had that Lampard, Stevie Gerrard discussion always. Does that fit? Is that the perfect way to do it? And now obviously Bellingham runs the show. Bellingham is the player, in the English side that is a big difference maker besides Harry Kane, obviously up front as a fantastic striker. So I mean, how much you kind of want to lean yourself out of the window and going forward too much, and leave some pieces kind of, in danger behind, I mean, especially as you say, once you get in the knockout phase, you need to have that right balance, defensively especially the right balance, and I mean, it's a very courageous approach with Foden and in front of Bellingham, and have Gordon on the left flank, If they all do their job defensively, no problem. But it needs to be seen. And you have a Danish side that hasn't forgotten yet. The semi-final defeat from 3 years ago in the Euros at Wembley. I was at that game as well, and they are hungry. They are hungry. They want to really give them trouble tomorrow, the English side. So we have a great game to watch there as well, similar to Italy, Spain.
The counter argument, just briefly to that. To the Foden thing was you're if you're a manager, you might be saying, well, that's taken away that space for Bellingham to charge into. When Bellingham, what he's been great at Real Madrid, there's nobody played in that number 10 role. He has always sort of pitched in there from wide positions or from deep, but he's waited in Vinicius Junior and Rodrigo creating space, and then he's bolted into those holes that appear. If you put another player in there, that drags another defender in there, and sometimes those spaces. So there is a counter argument to it, and that's why managers get paid to make those decisions. I don't think he'll do it tomorrow, but it's interesting to see if he's going to make it. If they don't play well tomorrow and win and get criticised again, he's going to start second guessing himself, Gareth Southgate, if he plays the same team, which I think we're hearing he's going to.
Well, that's from Don, so who knows?
Yeah, well, Don read it. Don read it in the Gazzetta.
I read that in an Italian paper.